Good morning, and welcome, friends, to our spiritual home, the Unitarian Universalist Church of Tarpon Springs. It's really nice to see all of the people that we know well, and it's really great to see new people that are here today, so welcome, especially to you. I'm Elaine Brooks, and I'm serving as worship associate today in this growing, journeying community. We welcome all of you to our service, especially those of you who are searching for a spiritual home. Many of us were once seeking a place of belonging too, seeking for something larger than ourselves to which we could belong, a sense of rootedness to hold us as we create meaning together. We do that well here, though not perfectly. In this congregation, we strive not for perfection, but for authenticity and connection. Whether it's your first time with us or your 100th time, we hope that you'll find questions that stretch you, people to befriend you, and liberal religious values that challenge you to join us in loving boldly, living justly, and welcoming radically. I can't take credit for these words. I was looking for a chalice lighting, and I just happened to stumble across this, and it felt especially meaningful since our service today is about belonging. And credit goes to Reverend Erica Hewitt. For those of you with visual impairment, I am an older white woman of average height with brown hair and brown eyes. I use the pronouns she, her. I'm wearing a light green top with faded flowers and black pants. We are in the sanctuary of our historic church, surrounded by the inspirational paintings of George Inness. And I'm thinking, these paintings are so beautiful and so special. How many times have we really stopped to look at them? So if you haven't looked at them in a while, I suggest that you go and look at them with new eyes. We ask anyone speaking today to enunciate distinctly using facial expression, intonation, and body language for the benefit of those with hearing impairment. We want to acknowledge that here at the church, we are on the lands of the Tocobaga and Seminole peoples. We offer a warm welcome to the guests that are with us today. We'd like to get to know you better and hope you'll join us following the service for our coffee hour and refreshments in the social hall. Our mission states that we are a liberal faith community for all ages, promoting spiritual growth, social justice, and the arts. Today, we welcome back Katie Green, who will lead our service titled, You Belong Here. Katie believes that stories can and do change the world. She has been telling stories and facilitating workshops for over 30 years. She is the initiator of the Interfaith Story Circle that meets once a month in various houses of worship. And she is a member of the Clearwater Friends Meeting. Welcome back, Katie.
Thank you.
Our music today is provided by our guest musician, Klytta. Welcome to UUCTS, Ann. Please join in singing our opening hymn, number 361 in the Gray Hymnal, Enter, Rejoice, and Come In.
Open your ears to the song. Open your ears to the song. Today will be a joyful day, and to rejoice and come in. Open your hearts, everyone. Open your hearts, everyone. Today will be a joyful day, and to rejoice and come in. Don't be afraid of some change. Don't be afraid of some change. Today will be a joyful day, and to rejoice and come in. And and to rejoice and come in, and to rejoice and come in. Today will be our joyful day, and to rejoice and come in.
I have a poem this morning by poet Marge Piercy, To Be of Use. The people I love best jump into work head first, without dallying in the shallows. They swim off with some sure strokes almost out of sight. They seem to be natives of that element, the black, sleek heads of seals, bouncing like half-submerged balls. I love people who harness themselves, an ox to a heavy cart, who pull like water buffalo with massive patience, who strain in the mud and the muck to move things forward, who do what has to be done again and again. I want to be with people who submerge in the task, who go into the fields to harvest and work in a row and pass the bags along, who are not parlor generals and field deserters, but move in a common rhythm when the food must come in or the fire must be put out. The work of the world is common as mud. Botched, it smears the hands, crumbles to dust. But the thing worth doing well has a shape that satisfies, clean and evident. Greek amphoras for wine or oil, Hopi vases that held corn are put in museums, but you know they were made to be used. The pitcher cries for water to carry, and a person for work that is real.
I always come in and practice that before we start to make sure that I can light it. We light this chalice with these words by Margaret Keep. We light this chalice to find inner peace, love for each other, and faith in ourselves. Also, to be welcoming to whomever we meet and kind to all living creatures. So gather around this light of hope as we share this time together. Unitarian Universalism is a covenantal faith. We will now read together our congregation's covenant, which will be on the screen. We strive to look for and encourage the best in each other as we move toward justice, peace, and love, both for ourselves and the world. And when we fall short, we will seek understanding, reconciliation, and a return to covenant. Now we will sing together Spirit of Life, number 123 in the Gray Book. Sit or stand as you prefer. And Diana Reef will come up and sign along with the singing. And please feel free to sign along with her.
Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart of the stirrings of compassion. living life, the shape of justice. Whose hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me.
It is my understanding there is a tradition in this building of describing ourselves for people who may be visually impaired. I'm an 82-year-old woman wearing blue and white and glasses, and what else can I say? I'm about 5'2". I have long silver hair, not gray, silver. My pronouns are she, her. So thank you. I have a story today. It used to be called a story for children, but you know, stories are not just for children. Stories are for human beings. And it's true that children love stories, but it's not because they're young, it's because they're human. This is a Chinese folk tale called Magic Paintbrush. There was a young man named Mao Liang, and he worked for a very rich man in the town. He did errands when the old man needed him. Now, Mia had a habit and a passion of painting. He painted everywhere. Every opportunity he had, he painted. One night, Mia had a dream. He dreamt that he had a magic paintbrush, and whatever he painted would become real. What a nice dream. Well, he woke up the next morning and there was a new paintbrush in his room. He picked it up and began to paint, and he painted a lovely flower, an iris. And poof, it was real. And from then on, anything he painted with that particular brush became real. It was magic. Now, Miang only used that brush when it was needed. If he found some people who were having trouble plowing their field because they had no animal to help and they were poor, he would paint a picture of an ox, and poof, the ox was real, and the people could plow their fields and they had plenty to eat. If he saw people farming and they did not have any water, he would paint a river. And then the people could take buckets and take water and water their fields, and their plants grew and they had plenty of food. He only used the magic paintbrush to help people. Well, you can imagine that the news of a magic paintbrush traveled through the town. And it came to the ear of the old man nearby, who lived in a very fine, large house and was unfortunately greedy. Sometimes people who have a lot of money can only think of getting more. He heard of the magic paintbrush, and he had Mia thrown into prison. And then he asked one of his people to go and get that magic paintbrush. You can imagine what he planned to do with it, huh? Well, the first thing he did, was invite all of his friends, come and see, I have a magic paintbrush, you've got to see what can happen. And they all came expecting magic. He painted, this man painted money and money and money. And as soon as he lay his paintbrush down. Nothing happened. Well, he painted jewels, necklaces, diamonds, and nothing. No matter what he painted, it did not come to life. There was only one thing he could do: release Maya. And Maya came and learned what was happening. He said to this greedy man, "I will paint a picture for you if you promise me you will release me." And the man said, "All right, okay. I want you to paint me a mountain of gold." Maya picked up the paintbrush and he painted an ocean. "No!" Of course it came right to life. "No!" The man said, "No. I told you, I want a mountain of gold." "Oh, I will paint that for you." He picked up his paintbrush, and yes, indeed, he painted a mountain of gold placed far, far in the distance of that ocean. The greedy man said, "Well, that's not going to do me any good. I can't swim that far. You paint me a boat." Yes. Maya picked up the brush, painted a boat, and immediately it was a real boat. And the rich man jumped in the boat along with some of his greedy friends, and they sailed far, far, far away to that island, to that mountain of gold. And as soon as he reached it, they all jumped off of the boat. Maya picked up the paintbrush again, and he painted a large wave that came down on that boat and broke it. And so those greedy men had to stay on that mountain and could not return. After that, Maya was free, and he only used the paintbrush for good things. I don't know what happened to that paintbrush. All we have now is the story about it. The magic paintbrush.
We will now sing our children to their religious education with Jamie. We'll sing "Go Now in Peace," and the words are up on the screen.
Go now in peace, go now in peace. May the Lord surround you everywhere, everywhere you may go. Go now in peace, go now in peace. May the Lord God surround you everywhere, everywhere you may go.
Thank you for that story, Katie. I'm trying to imagine what we could do with that magic paintbrush right now. Now is the time in the service when we take our offering for the work and welfare of this church. You may drop your donations in the plate or basket when it is passed, or donate online. Your generosity is greatly appreciated. After hearing the following words by Star Hawk from Dreaming in the Dark, we will have a moment of silent reflection. Somewhere there are people to whom we can speak with passion without having the words catch in our throats. Somewhere a circle of hands will open to receive us. Eyes will light up as we enter. Voices will celebrate with us whenever we come into our own power. Community means strength that joins our strength to do the work that needs to be done. Arms to hold us when we falter. A circle of healing, a circle of friends, someplace where we can be free. Now take a moment just to reflect on what those words might mean for you.
I'm off balance. The news lately has just pushed me over. I had a difficult time putting my thoughts together to share them with you. This time, mostly you're going to see Katie Green with papers. Because what I have to say needs to be said. What's happening in our country is frightening and can be paralyzing. But we can't afford to do nothing. So thank you for inviting me here today. It was a wonderful opportunity to put my thoughts on paper and figure out what I would share. I have to tell you that you know me as a storyteller, but I also do a lot of workshops, and when I was putting this together, I was thinking, I'd much rather be doing a workshop with you guys, so I would get something back from you, and it would be a whole group participation, but that's not going to happen. And when I was having trouble putting my thoughts together, my husband, who is also a Quaker, said, well, honey, you could introduce them to 20 minutes of Quaker worship. For those of you who might not know, Quakers worship in silence. I don't think that will go. So, Perhaps you're asking yourself, like I am, do I belong here in this country today? Is this the way I would have my culture, my society be? So the topic of do I belong here is pretty re-stimulating for me. I want to tell you how I came to be in Dunedin. I came the first time in 2012, in December. I was working on a historical story about a Puritan woman in colonial times. Her name was Mary Rowlandson. And there was one time I came to stand in your pulpit that I talked about her times, which were the colonial times in the late 1600s, when the power of the society was centered on white, male, landowning Christians. The Puritans left England not because they were unhappy with the church, the Puritans, did I say Pilgrims? Puritans, okay. The Puritans left England because they wanted a pure Christian church.
And the king was trying to kill them.
They had different ideas about how it should be. Okay. And I'm so pleased that I had the opportunity to spend several years with that story and that history. I'll mention that later on. But anyway, when I was asked to create a story for my hometown, Princeton, Massachusetts, they said, Katie, we need a historical story. Would you please tell the story of Lucy Keys? Lucy Keys. I've been telling that story up at Mount Wachusett, the local ski area, for a couple of years. Lucy Keys was a little girl who disappeared in the 18th century and was never found again. People love that kind of story, don't they? Well, anyway, I offered them that I would develop the story of Mary Rowlandson. And I'm even starting to feel like maybe that story needs to be told again. But while I was in Dunedin working, I came here because I couldn't write at home. You know, the laundry had to be done, the bathrooms had to be cleaned, the telephone had to be answered. So I got away, and I was fortunate to have a friend who lived in Dunedin. I came to Dunedin, and on December 14th, I was supposed to write, but on December 14th, Sandy Hook happened. I was knocked off my feet. I have always, ever since I've been a mother, had a strong feeling about violence and guns. So I couldn't write. I went to the local Quaker meeting, Clearwater Quaker meeting, because I needed some silence to pay attention to how I was feeling and what was going on. Well, I signed the book when I went in, and after that I got an email from their clerk every single week telling me what was happening in Dunedin. And of course, you know, I had to come back again and again. And then Phil and I bought the little orange house in Dunedin, and we tried to do the snowbird business for a couple of years, but you know, it just didn't, having two houses didn't quite fit with our version of simplicity, one of the Quaker values. So we sold our lovely house in the woods, and we are full-time Dunedin residents. Now, the Clearwater Friends meeting was a small meeting, and my daughter and her family also just happened to move down here because my son-in-law received an opportunity in Oldsmar. Ooh, that was nice and close. I could see my granddaughters. Okay. So they moved down here, and the Clearwater Friends meeting, which was, as I said, very small, all of a sudden had 6 new members. It was a rocky transition. Not all of the discomfort has been settled. There's a question of, do I belong there? So So belonging is certainly re-stimulating for me. You know, whenever you've had an event that sort of hurt you, any other event that sort of is similar gets pulled into it again, and you feel it again and again, and the pain just seems to magnify. So belonging is re-stimulating. When I was a child of 7 years old, my sister, who was 4, had leukemia. She died. I was not allowed to go to the hospital to see her in those days. I didn't belong there. There was one time when I was a teacher in Massachusetts, and I have to tell you, I was a political activist at that time. I was protesting nuclear weapons, the Contra Wars. I walked into the teacher's room, and the teacher had her back to the door and couldn't see me come in, and she was telling the rest of my peers, "That Katie Green, she's different." I didn't belong there, not at that school anyway. So, anyway, certain events can cause us to become ungrounded. You know, the assassinations of JFK, of the MLK, 9/11, the Pulse nightclub shooting, hurricanes, deaths, knock us over. And it's hard to think straight for a while and ask why. And we wonder, how do we fit in this picture? What's our place? And I realize that the sense of belonging gives us confidence. I equate belonging is to knowing your place in the world, of having an understanding that you are loved and that you are where you need to be, where you belong, being grounded. So when we lose a sense of ourself, we can lose our ability to process clearly and think clearly. There's an environmental activist, Joanne Macy, some of you may have heard of. She just recently passed away at, age 90-some? She tells us that we need to take time to grieve. In our yearly checkups with the doctors routinely say, "Are you depressed?" I always answer yes. But it is easy to be distracted. Our lives are full of possible distractions, interesting things to do. And a daily time out or stepping away is necessary for me to stay grounded. The Quakers practice silent worship with the expectation of hearing a small, still voice, which is different from meditation, which is just to erase everything and zoom out, which is also fine. Okay. But we live in a culture that is full of facts. We have an encyclopedia in our pockets. We live in a culture that's just full of information, and it reduces our confidence in what we know. So it's important to take breaks away from those screens and the machines. But facts don't educate us. We don't often make the time to really feel our emotions, to feel them, to recognize them, and to be able to love them. That's part of life. Macy encourages us to develop a poetic mind. Now, there's a storyteller friend of mine named Margaret Reed McDonald who lives out in the Seattle area. And she says that we are living in such an age of technology that it's really important that we stay friends with our imagination. and not let that be taken away. History shows us that it is the arts that are an effective tool against oppression, authoritarianism, fascism. The arts and humor. And it's being used effectively today. Okay. Since my art is that of storytelling, I want to just take a bit of your time to talk about the power of story. Okay. It's got three elements that are all equally important. And here I go in my little teacher workshop mode, and I will try to keep you with me. Okay, storytelling is made up of three things. A story. Hopefully it's a good story. There's all kinds of stories, right? There's spiritual stories, folk tales, fairy tales, legends, myths. And by the way, a lot of people say a myth is a story from somebody else's religion. And I've also heard it written or seen it written that our difficult, like ideas are the hardest places to try to resolve conflicts. It's harder to resolve a conflict between groups that have different ideas than it is about land or ownership. Okay? So, I lost what I was going to say. So the different ideas and the different stories we hear can keep us divided. Oh, I know what I was going to say. I've seen it written that people that are trouble with religions and disagreements come about mainly, not always, but mainly when people start interpreting their resources, their versions, their beliefs of the Bible, their beliefs as true history instead of story and metaphor. And of course, with story, there's always a bit of truth in every story, but it's an interesting thought. So story is one important part of storytelling. The listeners, to have storytelling, you got to have listeners. Otherwise, a person is just standing there talking to themselves or maybe practicing or rehearsing. So listeners. And the quality of listening is going to depend on, well, maybe the person needs a hearing aid, or maybe the person is distracted by internal difficulty, or even the environment where the storytelling is happening can take the listeners away from the story. We go once a month to Safety Harbor, to Shampsey. I don't know if any of you have ever been down the Safety Harbor Arts and Music Center. It's a fun place, lots of kids' programs. But the listener can have a really hard time there because in the winter it's cold, there's no walls, and in the summer it's hot, there's no air conditioning. So, that puts a burden on the listener. Sometimes they just stay away. And finally, there's the storyteller. What can I say? Storyteller, the quality of the storytelling is dependent also on the storyteller. Not totally dependent, but the storyteller needs to have some skill and needs to be able to be heard and has to have a good type of story for the particular people they want to tell to. But the main thing that I want you to remember about the importance of the storyteller is intention. Why is that storyteller telling that story? Is it to sell something? Is it to increase your ability to want to give to a certain thing or to do a certain thing? Is it to get attention? Okay, so lots of reasons. Is it to pay the rent? There are storytellers who actually, in Massachusetts anyway, I don't think down here, but who use storytelling as that's their job. Okay, so you need all of those things. The power of storytelling lies in the center. Now, I know you're familiar with Venn diagrams, right? Okay, the power is where they cross. That's where the most energy is. Okay, so let's see if I can do this and stay focused. Okay, so we've got the story, the listener, and the storyteller. Okay, you see that place where they all cross? Okay, that is where the power, the magic, the sacred part of storytelling happens, because all of the people, all of the listeners are having the same experience, are having respect for each other. They all, storyteller and listener, have to have respect for the story that's being told to attend. Now, as I said, they're all equal. If one of them is off balance, good storytelling is not going to happen, right? I told you about Safety Harbor and the lack of heat or air conditioning, so that the listeners stay away. There's no storytelling. Or sometimes the listeners do come, but it's so cold they can't possibly pay attention, and the power of storytelling is diminished. I have to be honest. Just like I tell you I've lost my grounding, I don't recognize our country right now. I'm having trouble with the stories we're being told. Who are our main storytellers today? Of course, we always think storytelling, oh, well, that's the teacher, the preacher, and the politician. Right? Okay. The storytellers have a different role, and storytellers like to build community and bring people together, to have people get to know each other. But today, have you noticed that our politicians have become entertainment? And boy, do they have a lot of stories. They have a lot of money to put those stories out. So we are bombarded with those stories. And there are so many stories we have to discern who to listen to. And hopefully we can find a storyteller that's telling us truth, a storyteller who's paying attention to facts and doing some fact checking. Now, we also know that a story has a beginning and a middle and an end, right? Okay. We have grown up with so many myths about our beloved United States that it is hard, it can be painful to hear some of the truths in our history. There are some storytellers who say, oh no, I don't want my listeners to be uncomfortable. I'm only going to tell them stories that will make them happy and relaxed and feel safe, no matter what. So they don't want us to know history. That's threatening for us to really know our history. Why else would a lot of the legislators today say, no, we're not going to have black history in our schools. We're not going to have women's studies. We don't want to study anything that would make any child uncomfortable. But we are only going to tell the true story. It's beyond me how that man in the White House can present himself as a person who is defending the freedom of speech. My friend Brent Robinson, who is a teacher in Clearwater, received a letter that went out to all of the superintendents in Florida. It came to him through his union. He's a wonderful teacher. He's a leader in Indivisible. This letter says, it's come to my attention that some teachers are posting things that present our country in a negative way. It goes on saying, I will be interviewing them. How can you be a teacher and not support the American myth? They didn't say that. But he says that he has the power to revoke teachers' licenses. This is scary.
Who said that?
Department of Education. I can't pull the name right off. Yep.
I have a copy of the letter.
Yeah, good. I have a copy that Brant sent me, but the copy didn't have the person's name or the logo. It had I couldn't see, exactly where it came from. But the text is scary. Okay. So what we have to look at our history. I'm sure that the intention when the Puritans arrived was to make us all safe, but they were kind of self-centered. It was all white, male, landowning Christians. And the Puritans were the first people in the 17th century to make reservations for the Indians. There were laws in the towns in Massachusetts, the colony, that a native person could not walk across the land of a town unless they were dressed in English clothes and accompanied by an Englishman. Otherwise, they could be shot. Is that surprising? Yeah. Puritans exiled hundreds of Native Americans in the middle of the night, I think it was from Concord, and placed them out in Deer Island in the harbor of Boston and left them there all winter where they could freeze and starve. Are you surprised? Yeah. We don't want to think that our forefathers could do such a terrible thing. Okay. Indigenous people were hung and executed in Boston Common. And today, John Winthrop's sermon, City on the Hill, that he gave before he even stepped on the land, that sermon, which says that they are doing something that will be highlighted and looked up to by the rest of the world because they are being pure Christians. It's interpreted to indicate that this country is on high moral ground and is to be honored and emulated by the world. So from the beginning, this country was based in white superiority. Look at the doctrine of discovery.
Unless you're Irish.
Yeah. Unfortunately, there has to be an other to keep power, to keep people scared, to divide people. And it's up to us to realize the story that's being told and the intention of telling it. These events are part of our history that Moms for Liberty don't want taught. They are not part of the preferred story. So are we approaching the end of our country as we know it? Or perhaps we are at the beginning of a new story. We're living in tumultuous times. We don't know what's going to happen next. Everything is changing so fast. Are there rules? Who do we believe? There was a time not too long ago when people said, it's a picture, pictures don't lie. Well, now we have AI. We can't trust pictures or film. Okay. It's essential that we follow stories that tell the truth and fact check. The speed of these stories and the way that laws are being changed in order to enhance and promote authoritarianism or fascism does not allow us to sit and do nothing if we love our country. We need to pay attention to the pain. Resistance is patriotic. Dan Berrigan often said that silence is complicity. Of course, we have to add in order to be effective, we do need to do our homework. Okay. The Quakers have a process called discernment, a spiritual process where a friend meets with other friends and discusses what might be the best pattern of action, the best way of acting. Nonviolence is repeatedly stressed. Violence only begets more violence. Yesterday, the organization Indivisible held a workshop, I think in Largo, to promote safety and to de-escalate any violence. Gene Sharp from the Albert Einstein Institution lists 198 methods of nonviolent resistance. Everyone can do something. And small random acts of kindness can make a big difference. So I continue to use that 5 calls app, and I stand out with my sign, but I think the time is coming for more. So go to Indivisible's website if you're moved to North Pinellas Indivisible. Their next meeting is October 1 at the Presbyterian Church on Scotland in Dunedin. Also, I want to invite you to the next Story Circle meeting, Interfaith Story Circle, which will be at the same place, the Presbyterian Church, First Presbyterian Church on Scotland Street in Dunedin. The theme this month is hope, and the two featured storytellers are Brenda Thomas and Whittier Mickelson. Okay, so I invite you to come to that. And I'm going to close now with a Rumi poem. Sometimes I forget that I was created for joy. My mind is too heavy for me to remember that I have been called to dance, the sacred dance of life. I was created to smile, to love, to be lifted up, and to lift up others. O sacred one, untangle my feet from all that trap. Free my soul, that we might dance, and that our dancing might be infectious.
Please join us in singing hymn number 323 in the gray hymnal, Break Not the Circle. Sit or stand as you prefer.
Break not the circle of enabling love, where people grow forgiven and forgiving. Break not that circle, make it wider still, till it includes, embraces all the living. Come wander at this love that comes to life, where words of freedom are with humor spoken, and people keep no score of wrong and guilt, but Join then the movement of the love that frees, till people of whatever race or nation will truly be themselves, stand on their feet, see eye to eye with laughter and elation.
I am closing with a poem by Rilke. Listen. God speaks to each of us as he makes us, then walks with us silently out of the night. These are the words we dimly hear. You, sent out beyond your recall, go to the limits of your longing. Embody me. Flare up like a flame and make big shadows I can move in. Let everything happen to you, beauty and terror. Just keep going. No feeling is final. Don't let yourself lose me. Nearby is the country they call life. You will know it by its seriousness. Give me your hand.
Thank you, Katie, for inviting us to look at where and how we belong in this world and in our community. And thank you, Anne, for the beautiful music today. We extinguish our chalice with these words by Amanda Alice Houlihan. Together we have enjoyed the warmth and beauty of stories, of this flame and of this special community. As our chalice flame is extinguished this morning, we can still remember that its glow is carried with us. We can use our inner lights in this flame to kindle new sparks throughout our lives and in the world. May the spirit of peace and togetherness bless our lives.